Artificial intelligence per se is not really that new of a technology. The first working AI programs were written in 1951, and they were used to play checkers or chess. It took 46 years for a chess-playing program to defeat a chess master, Garry Kasparov. In 1966, a program called ELIZA was introduced. It was a simple natural language processing program. It simulated a Rogerian psychotherapist, meaning it mostly reflected the user's input back at them in a way that seemed thoughtful. It didn't understand anything. ELIZA used pattern matching and simple keyword substitutions to give the illusion of comprehension. For example, when a user said, "I'm feeling sad today," ELIZA would respond, "Why are you feeling sad today?" If it didn't recognize a keyword or the message was too complex, it might just say, "Please go on." Though the technology cannot be compared to, say, today's ChatGPT or character AI, it already gave users a feeling of being understood by a computer and paved the way for today's language processing tools. ELIZA, contrary to modern generative AIs, did not understand language. It relied on simple keyword matching to mimic conversation, giving the illusion of intelligence. Modern models like ChatGPT, however, are trained on massive datasets and generate responses based on deep contextual understanding, allowing them to hold more meaningful conversations, perform complex tasks, and adapt to user input in a way ELIZA never could. Later on, AI was popularized more and more without us even realizing. AI began to appear in video games, spell checkers, and autocomplete tools. It was embedded into search engines like Google, spam filters in, for example, Gmail, and recommendation systems on services like Amazon or Netflix. It was also used in voice assistants like Siri or Alexa. In 2022, OpenAI launched ChatGPT, which felt like the first moment people realized they were interacting with AI. It was no longer just a feature in a program we were using. We were openly told, "Hey, this is artificial intelligence, talk to it like you would talk to a human, and it will talk back." It immediately went viral as it facilitated a lot of things. Simple and mundane tasks could be done by a computer, saving us time and energy. But, like with every technology, people wanted to see how far they could take it. They talked to it like a therapist or a friend. They would ask more and more bizarre questions and request weird tasks. With time, technology to generate images was introduced. Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, even YouTube started getting flooded with AI-generated content, or what people like to call AI slop. Opinions on that type of content are divided. But as generative AI became more advanced, it wasn't just casual users playing with prompts or making memes. It was also businesses, tech giants, and startups rushing to find out how this new technology could save money and boost profits. On the surface, AI seemed like a dream tool. It could write emails, design posters, code websites, answer customer support queries, all in seconds. For small creators and new businesses, this meant more freedom and lower costs. AI could level the playing field, giving people without big budgets access to powerful tools. But when billion-dollar companies started jumping in, it became clear that the real winners weren't going to be everyday users. They were going to be the same people who always win, the ones who already have the most. Instead of using AI to improve work conditions or help employees do their jobs better, corporations started using it to cut costs, not in smart or ethical ways, but by laying off thousands of workers, automating entry-level jobs, and packaging it all as innovation. Still, we were told that AI is fun and we can benefit from it. There were several TikTok trends that consisted of users recreating their photos in a style of a particular artist. The most notable one was perhaps the Studio Ghibli trend, which excited people across the globe. TikTok was flooded with AI images which could have watered down Miyazaki's iconic style. We were told AI is there to help us with everyday tasks. We no longer have to sit for hours and wonder how to respond to an email. Just put it in ChatGPT and it will answer for you. You no longer have to write cringe birthday wishes to your kids. ChatGPT is here to help. No need to think, just prompt it. The convenience and speed of AI was, and still is, underlined everywhere. But as useful, exciting, and even creative as generative AI can be, we quickly learned that the biggest threat it poses isn't rogue machines or sci-fi doom scenarios. It's business as usual, corporate greed in its most predictable form. One of many issues that arise with the popularization of generative AI is how it's trained. In order to create a program which will generate images, the AI has to be trained on existing works of art. These models learn to associate images with textual descriptions. During training, the AI is fed millions or billions of images along with captions or metadata that describe them. It learns to generate new images by statistically modeling the relationship between words and visual features, for example, what a cat sitting on a chair looks like across many examples. The problem with that isn't necessarily how it needs to be done. It makes sense that if we want a computer to create something visual, it has to be fed some visuals to begin with. The problem is how those images are sourced. AIs such as Midjourney or DALL-E were trained on visuals from publicly available or scraped internet datasets. Many images are pulled from sites like Wikipedia, Flickr, blogs, stock photo platforms, and even art sites, often without creators' explicit consent. This approach has raised copyright and consent concerns. While some data is clearly public domain or open licensed, much of it is not. In 2023, Sarah Anderson, Kelly McKernan, and Carla Oritz filed a class action lawsuit against Stability AI, Midjourney, and DeviantArt. They claimed their copyrighted artwork registered with the US Copyright Office was included in massive scraped datasets without their permission, credit, or compensation. The defendants argued their use is transformative and therefore protected under US fair use law. Advocates for AI warn that opposing such training methods could stifle technological progress. Another artist, wildlife photographer Tim Flatch, discovered that AI tools like Midjourney were producing images strikingly similar to his signature style because his work had been scraped. He described the process as a parasitic invasion of his creative output. Flatch's photos were used without his knowledge, and he was listed on a style dataset, enabling AI to mimic his work. And that's just two examples. There are probably millions of artists whose work was used to train an AI model, and some of them may never find out about it. In my opinion, this is a horrible infringement on copyright laws. But it's not AI's fault. It's the fault of the companies who didn't put any attention whatsoever to what images were used to train their models. It's a good thing that we have a program which can create simple visualizations. When designing an apartment on your own, you may find a tool like that useful before ordering a bunch of furniture. When pitching an idea to a potential investor, you may want to cheaply create some visualizations to enrich your presentation. Not everyone knows how to use graphic design software. For some people, it's a difficult thing to learn. Instead, they can use AI to perform basic tasks that would otherwise require them to hire a professional they can't always afford. For people who are on a tight budget, simple software like that can really be useful, and that's okay. What is not okay, however, is that you can now recreate your own picture in Studio Ghibli style, which to untrained eyes may be indistinguishable from the work of the original artist. It is not okay that you can basically reproduce the work of a famous photographer to use it in your blog post and avoid copyright limitations. AI can still be a good thing if proper limitations are put in place. And I don't think it would be that difficult to accomplish. Companies which create generative AIs should be mandated to ask for permission and compensate the artists. Artists should have full autonomy on whether or not they agree to their work being used to train AI. And I do think that most artists, especially those who are accomplished, would have denied that request. However, I also think there is a group of artists who would say yes. For example, people who struggle to find a job in the creative field and want to live off their passion. Some of those people could potentially be interested in selling their artwork to AI companies if the compensation was appropriate. And that would be enough to build an AI that can create simple graphics, which we make use of. It would be enough to help small creators design visuals or to generate simple ads for starting businesses. It would be enough to help people who are on a small budget, have no graphic design skills, and need to create something simple, fast, or only once. At the same time, it wouldn't be enough to copy famous artists for your Instagram story. There is no denying that AI companies make billions of dollars on stolen artwork. And it doesn't have to look like that. However, the greed of tech giants is hard to fight. They may argue that the way in which they use those artworks is transformative and therefore they should not be punished by law. However, that's just an excuse. The real truth is, if they had to compensate artists, that would significantly cut their profits. So the fault here isn't on technology. The technology cannot be immoral by itself. It's just a tool that people created for other people to use. It's how it's created and how it's used that's immoral. While speaking about artists, many people also claim that AI is bad because it will take people's jobs. Artists are one of the groups which may be affected by that, or which is already affected by that, to be fair. If we no longer have to pay someone thousands to create art and instead can opt for free or cheap software to do it, there may soon be no need to hire real artists at all. We can already see it happening in advertising. More and more companies decide to go for AI-generated images or videos to cut costs. In my opinion, this looks really cheap and reflects badly on the company as a whole. But I do have to say that I'm Gen Z, and like many young people, have been trained to look for altered images. The use of Photoshop and filters has made our generation closely attuned to manipulated images on the internet. That's why so many of us have no problem detecting AI images from miles away. However, the same can't be said about some older people or even youth that isn't as chronically online. So to us, AI advertising may seem cheap, but the advertiser's target group may not even notice a difference, so what's the harm in using it? There is harm for people who want to start working in advertising. Usually, people who start in a certain field perform simple tasks. After all, they need to prove themselves, but at the same time, don't have the experience and expertise to perform more advanced duties. So they do the simple, mundane things that no one advanced wants to waste time on. Now, those simple tasks can be performed by AI. Since the cost of a worker is much higher than buying or subscribing to software, many entry-level jobs have been wiped. It may be one of the reasons why so many young people have trouble finding a job or even an internship. And sure, there have to be people who operate AI and monitor its work, so it's up to the company's standards. However, those people need to have some experience already to be able to tell if what AI did is correct or not. What's more, because AI can do a complicated task in seconds or minutes, we no longer need several people to operate it. One person is usually enough. And it's not just interns that will soon be obsolete. There are now self-driving cars which may soon replace taxi drivers altogether. Maybe not immediately all of them, as there are still a lot of places where those cars don't perform very well, but with time, AI will learn how to operate there too. There is less and less need for delivery drivers as well, as we have robots and drones which already deliver things to people in big American cities. It may still be a foreign concept in Europe, but like with everything, American trends will sooner or later come to our cities as well. But the list goes on. In 2020, MSN sacked dozens of journalists responsible for writing news stories displayed on the company's homepage, and has since been using AI software to create the content. Google kicked off 2024 by announcing not one, but 2 rounds of layoffs. The job-cutting spree, which largely affected workers from the company ad division, coincided with a heavy deployment of AI across customer care and ad sales processes, as well as a company-wide effort to use the tech to improve operational efficiency. An e-commerce company, Doucan, replaced 90% of customer support staff with a chatbot. The chatbot helped the company cut the cost of its customer support function by 85% and drastically reduce customer wait times. IKEA replaced their call centers with an AI bot. A Chinese marketing company called Blue Focus replaced their human content writers with AI. Salesforce is decreasing their hiring budget in favor of putting more money into AI. Duolingo fired people and now uses AI to translate content, and so on and so forth. There are so many examples that it's literally impossible to talk about all of them. Again, a lot of those companies claim that either workforce reduction was not done in favor of AI or that there will be more jobs created in development. But let's be real here. Companies are already straight up replacing workers with AI. But once again, it's not AI's fault. AI could still be used by those companies and the people wouldn't have to lose their jobs. They could be retrained or given additional tasks that cannot be performed by AI. They could be at least offered different positions. But those companies just don't care about their workers. Not that many companies do. It's not really a revelation that even if you die, your company will replace you with someone in the blink of an eye. But now, it's possible that when you die, your company will replace you with software. Because companies need to cut costs. Or at least so they say, because I could understand a small business or even a mid-sized company deciding to hire less people and training their existing staff to work with AI. After all, in the world ruled by giants, it's hard to survive as a small fish. But multi-billion-dollar companies laying off a significant portion of their workers in favor of AI is nothing else than greed. That's why the technology is wrongly blamed. It's a convenient thing for CEOs to tell people, we need to cut costs to survive and AI is here to help, because truth is, most of those companies don't absolutely need to cut costs. They've already raised their prices, they already have huge margins and make a lot of money on products that sometimes cost them pennies to produce. The layoffs are not about survival. They are about inflating profit margins that are already massive. Take Google, for example. They made over $26.5 billion in profit in just one quarter at the end of 2024, a staggering 28% increase from the previous year. Even with all that money, they still laid off 12,000 workers, saying it was to save costs. Microsoft did the same thing. They made $25.8 billion in profit and still let go of thousands of employees, blaming it on AI-related changes. These companies aren't struggling, they are making more money than ever. But instead of using that money to support their workers, they are cutting jobs just to make even bigger profits. On the other hand, AI is helpful to those small and developing businesses. Companies who actually can't afford to hire more than a few people can greatly benefit from using AI as it facilitates scaling. So AI can also help both workers and entrepreneurs who are trying to make it in the world of monopolized markets. It's hard to talk about the downsides of AI without mentioning its impact on the environment. I'm by no means an expert in this, so please do excuse me if this part is disproportionately short. AI has a detrimental effect on the environment, but if you want to fully understand it, I'm going to link some better videos on that topic in the description. Here, I'm just going to briefly describe it because I just simply can't not talk about it. AI consumes massive amounts of energy. Running AIs continuously in data centers, which is required for chatbots or image generators, consumes huge amounts of electricity daily. Training a large language model like GPT-3, for example, is estimated to use just under 1,300 megawatt-hours of electricity, about as much power as consumed annually by 130 US homes. Determining how much energy AI models use per query is much harder as we don't have available data from the companies that run them, but it is estimated that, for example, generating an image uses 2.907 kilowatt-hours, which equals about the same amount of energy we need to charge a smartphone. What's more, a study from 2019 found that training a large NLP model can emit as much CO2 as 5 cars over their lifetimes. AI data centers also require massive amounts of water for their cooling systems. Training ChatGPT-3 may have used 700,000 liters of water, enough to produce hundreds of cars or thousands of t-shirts. Additionally, roughly 500 milliliters of water are used for about 20 to 50 queries. And apparently, as of June 2025, ChatGPT handles over 1 billion queries every single day. That would equal 10 to 25 million liters of water every single day. That would be enough to fill 4 to 10 Olympic-sized swimming pools. What's probably most wasteful of it all is when AI is being pushed in places where it is absolutely not needed. For example, when you Google something simple and there is an AI overview at the top of the search page, which is not only absolutely unnecessary, but also often wrong. Just like during the dot-com craze, incorporating AI is beneficial for companies because it attracts more investors. AI is seen as the technology of the future, and even when it doesn't improve the actual usability of a product, it still adds a sense of modernity and appeal. It's trendy, it's sleek, and you definitely want it. Blaming AI for all those problems misses the point. AI didn't choose to scrape artists' work without consent. It didn't decide to fire workers, replace call centers, or suck up millions of liters of water. AI is a tool. Capitalism decides how that tool is used. In a different system, AI could have been used to lighten workloads, support creative industries, and help workers, not replace them. But under capitalism, the only goal is profit. If a company can cut costs by automating jobs, it will. If it can avoid paying artists by scraping their work, it will. If it can slap AI powered on a product to boost investor hype, even if it adds nothing useful, it absolutely will. That's not a tech problem, that's a system problem. Capitalism rewards short-term gains and shareholder value, not long-term ethics or collective good. So even when AI could be used responsibly, there is no financial incentive to do so. And since most of these tools are owned by a handful of megacorporations, there is no accountability either. The result? A powerful new technology that could benefit everyone is being shaped to serve the interests of the wealthiest few, just like every other major innovation before it. And unless we change how we regulate, govern, and distribute those tools, the cycle will repeat. AI isn't evil. It's being used in evil ways, but by a system that prioritizes profit over people, creativity, and the planet. Instead of pointing fingers at people who use AI to make silly images to post on their Insta, we should point them at the billionaires and tech giants. They are the ones who develop software with absolutely no concern for copyright laws and environmental impact. They are the ones who fire people to enlarge their already huge margins. Getting angry at each other for using or not using AI is what those companies want. As long as we don't see them as the problem and instead focus on TikTok trends and how unethical they are, they can go on developing their software in peace. We can't stop this change. There is nothing any of us can do to put a halt to the development of AI. Even if you decide to point blank stop using it, we are already too far along for it to make any difference. You use AI even when you don't know about it and have been for quite some time now. But we can keep pressing on governments to introduce laws which will prevent those companies from developing software at minimal cost, all while exploiting the works of artists and other internet users. AI isn't just trained on artwork after all. Any comments left online can possibly be used to train some AI. Maybe even this video will be used for that. There is no way to know for sure. AI didn't fire artists. It didn't write the pink slips. It didn't raise rent, cut the benefits, or ignore the planet. CEOs did that. Boards did that. Investors did that. The enemy isn't the code, it's the greed. AI is just the tool. But if a tool is only ever wielded by billionaires, it's not surprising who gets cut.